Hi, my name is Michael Collins. Thank you for coming to my talk, Dissecting the Drivers of Change Points in Individual Learning, an analysis with real-world data for the 2024 Virtual Math Psych and ICCM Conference. Understanding how humans learn over time has been a primary interest in psychology. Research has attempted to understand how people learn specific tasks, from paired associates to StarCraft, all the way to understanding how individuals acquire entire domains of knowledge, such as algebra. From these findings, many different theories of learning have been developed, with most of them focusing on accounting for average human performance. Often, theories of learning will posit a smooth performance curve, such as the one shown in this slide in red, showing average performance of individuals playing games on Luminosity. However, if we plot individual participant performance as a function of time, seen here in black, it can be seen that there's a great deal of variability in performance. Looking at the performance of individuals playing a single game compared to the average performance profile, it is seen that individuals have sudden shifts in their performance where it either improves or degrades quickly over time. For this variability in performance at the individual level, different cognitive models have been paired with change detection algorithms. Change detection algorithms can infer change points within an individual's performance, allowing them to be broken up into homogeneous segments, which then a cognitive model can then fit independently. Previous research on skill acquisition, memory, and decision-making, which have integrated change detection algorithms with cognitive models, have shown that the variability in individual performance is not simply noise, but represents changes in strategy, strategy exploration, or task representation. Though this previous research has been able to explain individual performance at a fine level of granularity, different explanations as to what features of an experiment or task give rise to these estimated change points have been offered. In this talk, we review three different explanations as to why change points are inferred and evaluate their ability to explain the estimated change points in a real-world data set. Here we review three different explanations offered by different sets of researchers as to why change points are inferred. These views differ in their explanation, what task features are most critical, and when change points are more likely to be inferred. One explanation posited by Gray et al. Is that sudden shifts in performance are the result of changes or refinements in the individual strategy used to complete a particular task. From this explanation, inferred change points are thought to depend on the specific items being learned and can occur at any time as the individual performs the task. A second explanation given by Tenson et al. Is that change points are inferred due to memory consolidation. Tenson argues that individuals progress through three unique stages of learning. From this explanation, inferred change points are thought to depend on the problem's content and whether information can be consolidated and should primarily be inferred early on in performance and decrease over time as information is consolidated into procedural memory. Finally, the third explanation offered by Lee et al. Is that change points are inferred as individual explores different strategies. However, in contrast to Gray, Lee assumes that the number of inferred change points is a function of the individual and not the specific task or problem content. Though in agreement with Gray, Lee assumes that change points can be inferred at any point while learning. As mentioned on the previous slide, past research has offered different explanations as to why sudden shifts or change points are inferred. Each of these different explanations has examined performance in different domains: Tetris, novel math problems, and decision-making tasks. However, no attempt has been made to compare these different explanations against each other in a single data set. In this talk, we compare the ability of these three different explanations to best account for the inferred change points in an applied real-world dataset of individuals completing different games on Luminosity. Specifically, our analysis will focus on two questions. Are the number of change points inferred across all games played on Luminosity best explained and predicted by either the subject game attribute or the specific game? And second, how does the probability of a change point occurring change over gameplays? In this analysis, we used a dataset collected from individuals playing games on Luminosity. Luminosity is an online learning platform where individuals can play games to improve various cognitive abilities. The dataset was collected by Stivers et al. And consisted of a record of up to the first 60 gameplays of over 36,000 individuals. We used a random sample of 214, playing 84 different games. All the recorded data from Luminosity was performed online as opposed to being completed on a mobile phone. The latent factor analysis was used to categorize games as having one of 6 primary attributes: attention, problem solving, memory, flexibility, speed, or math. On luminosity, participants received a score based on their accuracy, speed, and bonus points during each gameplay. The luminosity dataset contained participants' raw performance scores. However, for these analyses, we used the normalized performance scores. For this paper, we chose to use a simple exponential learning model to account for the participants' performance on different luminosity games. The model has 3 free parameters accounting for the performance maximum, performance intercept, and the learning rate, and 1 fixed parameter, n, representing the number of exposures to a specific game on luminosity. The simple learning model was combined with a standard change detection algorithm and was fit individually to each user's performance history across each game that they played on luminosity. Using a change detection algorithm and a simple learning model, the maximum number of change points that improved the model's fit, which could range from 0 to 60, that did not increase the unnecessary complexity of the model, was found. Change points were identified using a genetic algorithm, and the model complexity was measured using BIC. More details about the change detection algorithm and the model fitting procedure can be found in our paper. An examination of the average normalized performance of individuals on luminosity reveals a standard average performance curve with low initial performance, slowly increasing over time over gameplays. Overall, our learning model paired with our change detection algorithm, shown here in red, was able to fit the performance of subjects fairly well, with a correlation of 0.95 and an RMSD of 8.56. Next, we examine the total number of inferred change points across all games played on luminosity. As can be seen, at least one change point was inferred across 90% of the data, with the mode of the distribution being 1. Furthermore, the distribution and number of inferred change points is highly skewed, showing that the large number of change points, 6 or more, was fairly uncommon. Assessing our first key question directly, we wanted to determine which features explain the most variance in the occurrence of the inferred change points in the luminosity dataset. To this end, we used a sequence of gameplays associated with each user playing different games on luminosity and fit an intercept-only logistic mixed effect regression models. The dependent variable was a binary result of the change detection algorithm, was a change point inferred or not. And for the mixed effects, we examined all possible combinations of the 3 different features of interest: user, game, and a game's primary attribute. For each of these models, we examined the interclass correlation, or ICC, to determine how much variance can be explained by these different factors. Individually on their own, the factors of interest were found to have low ICC values. However, our best model, which included game and user, was found to have the highest ICC value, explaining 21% of the variance of inferred change points. Speaking directly to our second question, when were change points more likely to be inferred, we extended our previous best model by adding a fixed effect of gameplay, testing for both a linear and a quadratic effect. Model comparison using BIC found that a quadratic effect was warranted and significantly improved the model's fit. The fit of the extended model, we see that change points do indeed occur more frequently early on in gameplays. This is in line with the assertion made by Tennyson et al. However, in the data, there is a sharp uptick in the probability of change points being inferred during the final gameplays, which is why the quadratic term improved the model's fit so much. This in turn goes against a purely negative relationship between change points and gameplays as proposed by Gray and Lee. The goal of our last analysis was to shed more light on the sources of variance that can be leveraged when the goal is to predict whether a change point would be inferred on the following trial. Here we leveraged a gradient-boosted decision tree ensemble model that can learn nonlinear relationships between predictors without us requiring to specify them in advance. To predict the occurrence of whether a change point would be inferred on the following trial, the model used 3 different features previously discussed: participant, game, and attribute, as well as gameplay and previous performance. To examine the model's predictive ability, we trained the gradient-boosted decision tree on 80% of the data while predicting and held out 20%. An examination of the log loss between the training and test set showed that the model had successfully predicted change points. Here we show the proportions in the model's feature-based aggregations, highlighting which features are most important for predicting when a change point would occur. The 2 features with the highest importance were lag performance and gameplay. Notably, the performance in the preceding trials, which is what the lag values represent, is the most important category for predictors. Naturally, the change detection algorithm that determines when a change point is inferred or not or is using the preceding performance values, so it's not surprising that these contain predictive information. Finally, of the attributes we previously examined, the most predictive features were game and user, which further confirms our analysis with their linear mixed effects models. Research attempting to understand learning at the individual level has explored integrating change detection algorithms with cognitive models. This pairing has allowed for psychological models to better account for the variability found at the individual level of performance. However, despite this improved ability, different varying explanations have been given for what features are most associated with these inferred change points: participant, problem type, or problem, and when they will be inferred, early on in performance or maybe uniformly over time. For this reason, we compared these three different explanations to see which features could best explain and predict variance in the inferred change points in a real-world dataset. Overall, our results revealed several interesting findings from our analyses. First, our learning model integrated with the change detection algorithm was able to fit the individual performance on luminosity very well. We found that change points were commonly inferred across all the participants' gameplay. Second, our results revealed that the variation of the inferred change points could be understood by previously proposed explanations to varying degrees. We found that the most relevant features for explaining variability in change points were user and game, in line with the explanations given by Gray et al. And Lee et al. Little evidence was found that problem type accounted for a meaningful variation across the inferred luminosity dataset, which did go against the prediction made by Tennyson et al. However, we found that a majority of the change points were inferred early on in performance, in line with Tennyson's prediction, but a significant amount of change points were inferred later on in gameplays, in line with predictions made by Gray and Lee. These findings were corroborated by both a predictive model, which also identified user and game to be markedly more important predictors than primary attribute. I just want to acknowledge a couple limitations and provide an avenue for future research. So first, the inferences of change points will always depend on the underlying model and the specific change detection algorithm that is selected. So different models of learning and change detection algorithms might yield different results than the ones reported here. Related to this, our model focused only on learning over time based on the number of exposures to a particular game. However, other cognitive mechanisms, such as memory decay, also play a role in learning and have been shown to be relevant for accounting for performance in other luminosity datasets. So for future research, we'd really like to explore the robustness of these findings using different change detection algorithms and more complex models to see if we can still understand and explain and predict the inferred change points across individuals' performance in both the full luminosity dataset as well as other datasets. Incorporating change detection algorithms with cognitive models allows for models to better account for the variability seen at the individual level of learning. The benefit of this approach is that we can evaluate more nuanced theories. However, this also does increase the complexity of our models, so care should be taken to make sure that the additional complexity is warranted. Our results found that the explanations previously given can explain the variability of inferred change points in a real-world dataset to various degrees. These findings both support conclusions for our previous work and provide an opportunity for model development moving forward. Thank you for listening to my talk. I look forward to seeing everyone at ICCM. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Mark Stivers, who made this dataset public, and we would encourage anyone who's interested to go check out his papers on these really interesting datasets.